The full set list for Glory of Team Rocket has been revealed. This set is going to be the second half of our Destined Rival set, the first half being Hot Air Arena. So those two sets are going to be combined into our Destined Rival set, releasing, I believe, next month. Indeed, May 30th is when we will be receiving Destined Rivals here in the West. And this video, I'm not sure how long this is going to be, because in terms of the set, there's only a handful of cards to talk about, but we of course have the Trainers Pokemon to talk about, and the Team Rocket cards. There's a lot of them. There's like 58 of them from what I've counted, which is the most amount of trainer cards we've seen for a single trainer, because there isn't like multiple like Team Rocket admins, even though they're like different pictures of them on the cards. It's all one archetype, and there's 58 cards to go through. But let's go through the cards that aren't Team Rocket's cards that are worth noting and talking about. Starting off with Bolivia, I think that's how you say it, EX. 310 HP Grass-type Pokemon with the Oil Machine Gun attack. That's definitely not what it's going to be called in the West. It says choose one of your opponent's Pokemon 6 times and do 20 damage to it. You can choose the same Pokemon more than once, and damage isn't affected by weakness or resistance for 1 Grass Energy. So basically you can choose one of your opponent's Pokemon up to 6 times, so you can choose multiple Pokemon a certain number of times. So say your opponent has like, I don't know, if you bench Pokemon you could choose each one of them twice, you could choose all of your opponent's Pokemon once, and you do 20 damage to it. It's alright. It allows you to pin down specific Pokemon if you really want to, like you could put like 60 damage here and then maybe like 60 damage over here. It's okay, it's worth talking about as it's like a decent Pokemon for grass decks. Next up, Blaziken, 170 HP fire type Pokemon. For 2 fire and a colorless, discard 2 energy from this Pokemon, and this attack does 120 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon, and it already does 120 damage, so you're basically doing 120 to the active and then 120 damage to a benched Pokemon. Given that Mamoswine Blaziken is, you know, kind of a deck, it's not the best deck, but it is kind of a deck, you could throw in this Blaziken to evolve into instead of Blaziken EX and get a decent bench snipe attack. Again, it's nothing amazing, but it's a piece of support for something that's already kind of a thing, even if it's not like a big meta deck. It's still a deck that people are tinkering around with and playing with, so it's worth a mention. Next up is the duo Huntail and Gorbis. So these two kind of work together, but they could also work in other water-based decks. So Huntail with the Diver Catch ability says whenever one of your water Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, instead of putting all the water energy in the discard, you can put it all into your hand. So this is really good for some decks, for example, maybe something like Wailord, because Wailord does more damage based on the amount of water energy attached to it. So instead of all that water energy going to the discard and then you need to get it back with something like Superior Energy Retrieval or maybe shuffle it back into the deck with Super Rod, with Huntail in play you can just put all that water energy back into your hand, so then you can just reattach it onto another Pokemon. Pretty decent. And then Gorbis for 1 water has the Crescendo Wave attack. This attack does 30 damage for each water energy attached to this Pokemon, but before doing damage you can attach any number of basic water energy from your hand to this Pokemon. So that's why I say these two kind of go hand in hand, because you'd have Huntail in play and Gorbis, you'd attach a water energy to Gorbis, maybe fill up your hand with a bunch of water energy, attack with Gorbis, attach all of those energies, basically acting like a Baxcalibur, and then you can do a bunch of damage, and if Gorbis is knocked out because of Hunt, all of those water energies will go back into the hand to go onto the next Gorbis or the next attack that you decide to use. Pretty interesting duo, but we'll have to wait and see if they see play, because obviously 30 times the number of water energy, you're going to need quite a lot of water energy to knock out some Pokemon, especially if they have over 300 HP, you're going to need more than 10 water energies, but I guess you could do a pretty good decent amount of damage, and obviously you're trading 1 prize for 2 prize, which is always decent. Next up is Titan EX, 300 HP water type Pokemon with the Snow Cover ability. It says whenever your opponent plays an item or support card from their hand, prevent all effects of that card done to this Pokemon. So basically if your opponent plays something like Crushing Hammer, Enhanced Hammer, it doesn't do anything to this Pokemon. I'm not sure if that's the same thing with Boss's Orders, like if you use Boss's Orders on it, that I'm guessing that won't bring it up, because it's an effect that obviously affects the Pokemon. And then its attack for 3 water and a colorless does 140 damage, but you can discard a Stadium in play to 140 more for 280 in total. pretty okay, pretty heavy cost, and there needs to be a stadium in play in order to get that additional damage. But stadiums have become a bit more prevalent in the format with stuff like Hop Zacian playing Postwick, we have En Zoroark playing En's Castle, and as we'll see later on in this list, there are a couple of other stadium cards that could see play in the meta. Next up is Annihilate with the Vessel of Rage ability. Says that if this Pokemon has 2 or more damage counters on it, attacks used by it do 120 more damage, and then its attack Impact Blow for 2 fighting does 160, but during your next turn it can't use Impact Blow. So if this Pokemon has 2 damage counters on it, which is very easy to do, you can basically boost up your damage by 120 for 280, and on a fighting type, we have quite a few Pokemon in the format that are weak to fighting decks, or fighting Pokemon in general, so it could see a little bit amount of play, maybe in something like Slowking, you never know. I'm not really sure if the ability would pass on to Slowking, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't, but it's just an interesting card that was worth mentioning. Next, Regirock EX has the Regi Charge attack for 1 colorless. You can attach 2 basic fighting energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon. Pretty decent at getting it powered up. And then for a fighting and 3 colorless, it does 140 damage. And if your opponent's active Pokemon is a stage 2 Pokemon, it does 140 more damage. Pretty heavy cost for a fighting deck. We don't really have a lot of fighting support Pokemon in the format, so this is going to be a pretty hefty cost to fulfill. But we do have quite a few stage 2 decks in the format, so you can hit for a, 240 is like the base minimum damage that Pokemon needs to do at the moment, but it just seems like every Pokemon has to have a stipulation in order to hit 280, I guess because they just don't want a generic Pokemon that everyone can just throw into every deck that does 280. It needs to have a stipulation to make it balanced, I guess, but like, this Pokemon's okay. And then we have Zamazenta, so this has the strong Bash attack for 2 metal and a colorless, 70 damage, then during your opponent's next turn, if this Pokemon is damaged by an attack, even if it's knocked out, put damage counters on the attacking Pokemon equal to the damage done to this Pokemon. So this is pretty decent actually. Not only are you doing damage to begin with, but if this Pokemon gets attacked back, you're basically doing the exact same amount of damage as recoil damage, which is very, very strong, especially if you get hit by a very hard-hitting attack. Something like, Charizard in the late game, where it's doing like 300 plus damage every turn because you've taken a bunch of prize cards. You can just put this up, do 70, and if that Charizard attacks, it's just going to knock itself back out. Even something like Dragapult, it's basically going to take 200 damage to itself, and now it's on 270 because it's already taken 70 from the attack to begin with. You can very easily pick it off with something like Dusknoir, or maybe just leave it there for later on in the game if you need an easy knockout. Pretty decent card that might see play inside of our Chaladon or metal based decks. We'll just have to wait and see. And that's it for all the non-trainers Pokemon. Not many. And now we're going to get on to the Rockets Pokemon. This is going to be the bulk of the video because I have 58 cards to talk about. Not every single one of them is going to get the spotlight. Some of them are just going to get brief glimpses over, but some of them are going to have time dedicated to them. And we are going to go in set order, starting with the grass types. First up on the list, Team Rocket Spidops has the charge up ability, so that once during your turn you can attach a basic energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon. And then it has the Rocket Rush attack that does 30 damage for every Team Rocket's Pokemon in play. Pretty decent. It's on stage 1, so it is pretty easy to get into. It can accelerate energy back onto itself. It does require a grass and a colorless, but as we'll see later on, that does not matter in the slightest. So in total you can do, 5 times 30, 150? That's not bad, especially considering what we're going to talk about later on, because Team Rocket do have their own dedicated energy. In fact, I'm just going to talk about it now. Team Rocket's energy, if it's attached to a Team Rocket Pokemon, it provides a darkness and a psychic, or a combination of both. So for Spidops, it's not very good because you do need a grass as part of its attack cost, but this card by itself, as we'll see later on, is incredibly powerful. Next up, Moltres EX has the Flame Scream for 110 damage. During your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 50 less damage for attacks. For a fire and 2 colorless, it's okay. And then it has Evil Burn for a fire and 3 colorless. You can discard a Team Rocket's energy from this Pokemon. If you do discard your opponent's active Pokemon and all cards attached to it, it doesn't knock it out, it basically just discards it into the discard, which could be even better, especially if it's an evolution Pokemon with a couple of energies on it, because now your opponent's going to have to waste resources to obviously recycle it all back and get it back into play. The only downside is you need to discard one of your Team Rocket's energy and you can only play 4 because it's special energy, but you also need basically free energy on this Pokemon because you need a Team Rocket's energy, which will fulfill 2 of the colorless. You then need a fire and another colorless. It's decent, but we'll have to wait if it sees play. Team Rocket's Houndoom for a fire, it burns and confuses, that's pretty annoying. And then for a fire and a colorless does 120 damage and you discard an energy from this Pokemon. It's okay, the burn and confuse is pretty good, but we have other cards that are just better than this, to be honest. Articuno has the Resistant Veil, prevent all effects of your opponent's Pokemon's attacks done to your basic Team Rocket's Pokemon. So it's pretty decent. In fact, it's pretty good as it's basically a blanket protection effect for your Team Rocket's Pokemon, only basic Team Rocket's Pokemon. It also doesn't protect them from damage. It says right here, damage is not an effect, it only prevents effects. So stuff like Dragapult with its damage counters will get mitigated, but any bench hitting attacks will not. And then Dark Frost for a water and 2 colors does 60 damage. And if this Pokemon has a Team Rocket's energy attached, it does 60 more. Too high of a cost for too little damage, but the ability is very good. Next up we have Zapdos. Jamming Wing does 30 damage, and then you can move an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon to a bench Pokemon. Good way of disrupting around energy. You can put it onto something that's completely useless on it, and now they have to get that energy off and then get it back and all that kind of stuff. Basically makes them waste resources. And then its Bad Thunder is pretty much the same as Articuno's attack. It's like okay-ish. I could see it maybe being playing like some type of stun deck, as you can fulfill its first attack with just a Team Rocket's energy. Ampharos has the Dark Impulse. When your opponent plays a Pokemon from their hand to evolve one of their Pokemon during their turn, put 4 damage counters on that Pokemon. This is a very strong ability, basically being able to put 40 damage on a Pokemon when it evolves, especially for like a stage 1 non-EX Pokemon. That can be pretty good, especially against something like Dragapult. When they evolve into Dracloak, it's going to put 40 damage on it, so now it's in range of an easy KO possibly. Or when they evolve Duskull into Dusclops, or even when they evolve that Dracloak into Dragapult, it's now going to have another 40 on it, so it's possibly going to have 80 damage on it. Very, very strong ability, though it is on a stage 2, so you may need to throw in a couple of rare candies and Team Rocket's Mareep, so maybe a Fluffy. We'll have to see. Next up, Team Rocket's Hypno, the bench manipulation attack, 80 damage. Your opponent flips a coin for each of their bench Pokemon, and it does 80 damage for each Tails. Don't apply weakness or resistance. So your opponent has a full bench, you flip a coin, 5 times, and for every Tails you do 80 damage for 3 Psychic. It's okay-ish, it's not amazing, but it's decent, and it does rely on your opponent's bench, so you can't just fill up your own bench and then hit for a bunch. It's your opponent's bench that needs to be filled up. And then we have the big one, Team Rocket's Mewtwo. First off, 280 HP on a basic Pokemon. I see we're going back to tag team styles of HP, but this Pokemon is very strong, but it does have some downsides. First off, Power Save. This Pokemon can't attack unless you have 4 or more Team Rocket's Pokemon in play, so you can't just throw it in any Psychic-based deck. You have to play it in a Team Rocket deck, and you basically need 4 of your bench slots to be Team Rocket's Pokemon. If they're not, then it can't attack. There's attack for 2 Psychic and a colorless. A Deletion Sphere does 160 damage, then you can discard up to 2 energy from your benched Pokemon, and it does 60 more damage for each energy you discarded in this way, for a max of 280. You don't have to discard the energy from itself, it can be from anything. It's okay, because you're mainly probably going to be discarding, basic energies. I think it has to be basic energies. No, it's just any energy, so you could discard the Rocket's energy, not that you would want to, but I imagine this is probably going to be the main attacker for the deck. Though that downside of needing to have 4 Team Rocket's Pokemon in place, so if you have something like, I don't know, a Fezandipity, and then something else, maybe like a Blood Moon, you can't attack with this thing now because you're only going to have 3 Team Rocket's Pokemon on the bench. So I imagine in a pure Team Rocket's deck this will probably see play, but I imagine Team Rocket is probably going to be a toolbox deck. We'll have to see if this sees play. It is pretty strong, but it's all up in the air because there's 60 cards almost to work with for this deck. There's going to be loads of different builds probably. Next up, Wobbuffet has the Rocket Mirror, lets you move all damage counters from one of your bench Team Rocket's Pokemon to the active Pokemon. Very, very strong, so if one of your Pokemon has been hit for a lot of damage, so your Mewtwo's been hit for a lot of damage, you can use Wobbuffet to move all that damage onto one of your opponent's Pokemon. Now, it has to be the active, but you can basically just recoil back all that damage, heal it off of your Pokemon, and put it onto your opponent's. Pretty strong. Team Rocket's Chingling, Ringing Noise for 0 energy, discard a random card from your opponent's hand. It's good in basically Team Rocket, it's good in control, stuff like that. 0 retreat cost, 0 energy cost, it's another baby Pokemon to add to the list. Team Rocket's Mewtwo, Gem Mimicry, choose an attack from your opponent's active terrestrialized Pokemon and use it as the effect of this attack. I'm not sure the wording on this. It says use it as the effect of this attack. I'm not sure if it copies the attack. So you copy something like a Phantom Dive, or you copy something like a Terrapago, so you copy something like a Charizard. People in the comments have to tell me about that one, but I think that's how it works. I'm not entirely certain because it says the effect of the attack. It doesn't say use the attack as this attack. People let me know in the comments. But if it copies the attack, that is pretty strong. Next up, Orbital. It's often like during your turn you can move a damage counter from one of your Team Rocket's Pokemon to another of your Pokemon. I'm not sure why that's useful. I'm pretty sure there aren't any yet that do damage based on the amount of damage counters they have. Interesting. And then its attack for 40 damage. This does 40 more damage for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. It's okay, you know, energy costs at the moment are like, what, 2, maximum 3, so you're not really going to be hitting for a bunch of damage. Next up, Team Rocket's Tyranitar with the Sandstream. As long as this Pokemon's in the active spot, put 2 damage counters on each of your opponent's basic Pokemon during Pokemon Checkup. Pretty strong, so if you're up against something that plays a plethora of basic decks like Raging Bolt, or you know, the plethora of support EX Pokemon we have in the format, Squawkabilly, Fezandipity, all that kind of stuff, you can just tick away some damage on them, which could help you with a knockout. The only downside is it needs to be in the active spot, and it's a stage 2. And stat Breakthrough Tackle, 180 damage, discard an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. It's okay, bit of a high cost. Arbok, this card is actually really good. Intimidating Glare, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, your opponent can't play any Pokemon cards with abilities from their hand. So basically they can't play abilities. It's basically Path to the Peak, like whatever. It's pretty good as long as it's in the active spot. It says excluding Rocket's Pokemon, so you can still use your abilities if you've got Rocket's Pokemon. And then Free Darkness does 30 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. Pretty strong. Spread around a lot of damage and just keep doing it every turn because they're not going to have abilities, so it's going to be very hard for them to do stuff. Nidorina and Nidoqueen. The reason I mentioned Nidorina is it has the Dark Awakening. You can choose 2 of your Darkness Pokemon. For each of those Pokemon, search your deck for a card that evolves from that Pokemon and put it onto that Pokemon to evolve it. So you can evolve your Ekans into Arbok, you can evolve another Nidorina into Nidoqueen. It just says any Darkness Pokemon you could play in Darkness-based decks. I don't know why you would, but it could evolve into Nidoqueen, which for a Darkness, low impact, 60 damage. If you have any bench Pokemon with Nidoking in its name, it does 120 more damage, so 180 for 1 Darkness, pretty decent. And then of course, we have Nidoking EX, 330 HP, Dirty Horns for 2 Darkness and the Colorless does 100 damage, and your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned, and during checkup you put 8 more damage counters on it instead of 1. Damn, that's a lot. I think Petrant's 5, isn't it? You put 5 damage counters on, and this is 8. So it's basically 180 damage because you poison it and then they're going to take the tick up. So that's pretty strong. Do know it's on that Pokemon, so if any other Pokemon are poisoned, they won't take the 8 damage. Next up, Golbat and Crobat. I'm putting these 2 together because they basically have the same ability. Golbat says that when you place Pokemon from your hand to evolve it, you can put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. And then Crobat says the exact same thing. If you evolve it, you can put 2 damage counters, but on 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. Very similar to the Team Rocket's Crobat, or like one of the team's Crobats we had back in the day. It basically kind of did the same thing where when it was put into play, you put 2 damage on, and people would abuse that by picking it back up, putting it back down, picking it back up, put it back down. I think it was a Team Galactic Crobat. And then Crobat also has the Assassin's Return, which does 120 damage, and you can put this Pokemon back into your hand. So you can evolve, ping for some damage, attack, put it back into your hand, and then just do it again next turn. Pretty strong card. Next up, Grimer and Muck. Grimer for a Darkness and a Colorless. At the end of your opponent's next turn, discard the defending Pokemon all cards attached to it. It's okay. And then Muck, Sticky Mess. That's a hell of a name. For 40 damage, your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused, and during your opponent's next turn, that Pokemon can't retreat. Pretty good. This does 100 damage for each special condition affecting your opponent's active Pokemon. So if it's poisoned, burned, confused, it can do 100 times that amount, though the attack cost again is pretty steep. Coughing Alert Smog. If this Pokemon in the active spot is damaged by an attack, even if it's knocked out, you can search your deck for 2 Coughing and put them onto the bench. And then Wheezing, with its All-Out Explosion for a Darkness and Colors, does 40 damage, and it does 40 more damage for each Pokemon in play with Coughing or Wheezing in its name. It's okay-ish, I guess. Again, this deck is probably going to have multiple different builds focusing on multiple different things because there's so many cards. Almost there, almost. I say almost. Mokoro, you can search your deck for a support card, reveal it, put it into your hand, that's pretty good. And then 30 damage to each one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks, can't use it during the next turn, pretty good lockdown effect. Team Rocket Sneasel, it's Backstab. This attack does 20 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon for each damage counter already on that Pokemon, which is pretty good. So say your opponent's retreated one of their active Pokemon, you can use this, attach Team Rocket's energy to it, and just knock out that Pokemon, basically doing double damage than what it already has on it, which is pretty good. Raticate, 90 damage. Flip 2 coins. If both are tails, its attack does 90 damage to itself. That's pretty terrible. Persian EX, with its haughty orders, your opponent reveals the top 10 cards of the deck and you can choose an attack from a Pokemon you find there and use it as this attack. It's very dependent on what you find, it's not really worth it. Sounds very strong if you can pull it off, but it's heavily dependent on if you see something and what deck you're up against. And then 140 damage, your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused. It's okay. And then we have Porygon Z. It has the I don't know how you say that. You can discard 2 cards from your hand to use its ability to draw a card. That's pretty good. And then it has the Control R, 20 damage. This attack does 20 more damage for each supporter card in your discard pile with Team Rockets in its name. And boys, there are a lot. We'll be getting to those later on, but now we're on to the item cards. Yes, Team Rocket has item cards and supporter cards. It also has stadiums, and as I mentioned, it also has an energy. Team Rocket's Intruder Robot. Choose one of your opponent's face down prize cards and a random card from their hand. Your opponent reveals those cards and then you basically switch them. So basically your opponent takes the prize card and then puts the random card in their hand onto the prizes. It's a very situational card. It could be good, it also could be bad because you could give them something from the prizes that they may need and to basically take a useless card out of their hand. It's probably like not worth playing. Team Rocket's a great ball. This is basically capturing Aroma. Flip a coin. If heads, search your deck for an evolution Rocket Pokemon, and tails, search your deck for a basic Rocket Pokemon. It's going to be played at 4 copies probably. Team Rocket's Venture Bomb. Flip a coin. If heads, put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. If tails, put 2 damage counters on one of your active Pokemon. High risk, high reward type of thing. Team Rocket's Receiver. Search your deck for a supporter card with Rocket in its name, reveal and put it to your hand. And now for the Team Rocket's supporter cards. We have Ariana, which lets you draw cards until you have 5 in your hand, but if all of your Pokemon in play are Team Rocket's Pokemon, you can draw until you have 8. Pretty okay. We have Archer. You can only play this card if any of your Team Rocket's Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn. Each player shuffles their hand into the deck, you draw 5 and your opponent draws 3. It's basically Roxanne for Team Rocket's Pokemon. Pretty strong. We also have Giovanni. Switch your active Rocket's Pokemon with a benched Rocket's Pokemon. If you do, switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with the active Pokemon. It's Prime Catcher for Team Rocket's Pokemon. Next, Petrol. Search your deck for a trainer card, reveal it and put it to your hand, then shuffle your deck. It's alright. And then Proton. If you go first, you can use this card during your first turn. Search your deck for 3 basic Team Rocket's Pokemon, reveal them and put them into your hand. Pretty good search, especially if you go first. And then finally, we're here at the end. Team Rocket's Watchtower and Team Rocket's Factory. Team Rocket's Watchtower that says both players' colourless Pokemon have no abilities. Pretty weird power crept Path to the Peak, although it's not power crept because Path to the Peak is still better. Very weird card. The only stuff that comes to my head is like Squawkabilly, Blood Moon. Those are like the only basic Pokemon, or like colourless Pokemon. A Pidgeot, that's kind of it. It also affects your own Pokemon, which is like, meh, like, it's a bit weird, but like, I guess it could see some use. And then Team Rocket's Factory says that once during each player's turn, when that player plays a supporter card with Team Rocket's name, they can draw 2 cards. Pretty nice draw spot when you play a Team Rocket supporter because you're probably going to be playing a lot of them. And then Team Rocket's Energy, as I mentioned before, it provides a Darkness and a Poison, not Poison, Psychic to any Team Rocket's Pokemon attached to it. Provides either like 1 of each or 2 of the Psychic, 2 of the Dark. Yeah, so this set is very interesting. Oh yeah, there's also some gym promos. Some gym promos. Psyduck and Golduck are pretty good. They have the damp abilities that says each player's Pokemon that has an ability that would knock itself out basically doesn't do that. Pretty good against stuff like Magneton and Dusknoir. And then we have 2 more Team Rocket's Pokemon. Team Rocket's Kangaskhan. 30 damage, flip 4 coins, 30 damage for each heads, and then 120 damage if you play a supporter card with Team Rocket's name, it does 100 more damage. And then Team Rocket's Hypnosis Device, if the Team Rocket's Pokemon the sky is attached to is in the active spot and damaged, the attacking Pokemon's out of sleep. So Team Rocket has a grand total of 60 cards in its archetype. It takes up, there's 98 cards in the set, and it takes up 60 of those spots. That's ridiculous. That's actually insane. Why have none of the other trainers' Pokemon had this amount of support? So that's it for Glory of Team Rocket. pretty big mishmash of Team Rocket's cards. They all kind of do different things. They all, like, some of them work together, some of them have like different strategies, some of them are pretty good, some of them are pretty bad. Some of the supporter cards are like kind of generic, I suppose, but like not really. They have some stadiums, they have an energy, they basically have everything. They have absolutely everything. This is going to be a pretty big toolbox deck when it releases. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, what you think about this set. Are you going to pick up the Team Rockets cards? Are you going to pick up any of the other stuff I've talked about? What do you think of this set? Do you think this is way too much support for a Pokemon deck? Or do you think it's not enough? Do you think it needs more? Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that nonsense, and I will see you in the next video, whatever that may be. I am completely drained. Take care.